Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm going to do a weed fly. The first weed fly, I'm actually going to do two. First one is like the stringy weed you get in the estuaries. Alright, so that's that one. So it looks like the stringy weed you pick up and use around estuaries and a lot of the old time Luderik fishermen use. And then the second one is just your standard cabbage weed fly. So first the one, the stringy weed. So for that, I'm just using mono thread. This is a size 8 hook, and I've just wrapped the shank with lead. So it's this. It's just flat lead wire. All right. So about 6 wraps up the length. The main material for this is a material from Tyrewell. It's Seals Fur Dubbing, and the colour I'm using is insect green. So if you look at that, it looks very much like that stringy weed. Alright, so just wrap your shank, as I said, in the lead, then some thread up and down, that'll hold the lead in place, and then we're going to start the fly itself towards the back of the hook. Alright, so first I'm just going to take a little bit of the material and create a bit of a tail. So take it, wrap it, fold it back on itself. Alright, and then any bits that are really sticking out, pull off. So you'll see there's little bits of the other material through it, so that's another option, is to create it and put some of the flashier green material for the eye stub in with it. So the next bit I'm going to do is I'm just going to dub, but I'm not going to dub the whole shank. All right, I'm just going to dub probably 3 or so mils away from the eye of the hook. All right, so I'll just do this. It doesn't have to be super tight dubbing either, so don't get too carried away, because most of the dubbing is going to be teased out anyway. So all you really want is to make sure it's relatively consistent. You've got enough so that the hook shank's not going to basically show. All right, so bring the thread up to the eye of the hook, and then tease that out. Alright, so just using Velcro, as I am in this case, we're just going to tease that out and then pull it back on itself, like that. So you just get that little bit of bulk and the whole of the shank's covered. Alright, then I'm just going to get a little bit more dubbing and basically do the same thing as I just did at the tail. So I'm taking it, going to put it there, and I'm just going to do a couple of fairly loose wraps, so you'll see the material spin around the shank of the hook. Then I'm just going to push it back on itself, the same as I did for the tail, and then take the thread up and form a little bit of a head with the mono there. Alright, don't need to go too crazy. Then just whip finish that. Alright, let's do 4. Cut that thread. Now at this point I also use a little bit of head cement, or in this case a little bit of clear goo, just to hold all that thread in place so it doesn't come undone, and then it's just a matter of brushing it through like so, and that's it. So that's your green weed fly, to imitate the weed you get on the rocks in estuaries, and that a lot of the Luderik fishermen use in the estuaries. So that's a good one for that. Okay, so this one is going to be the cabbage weed. So this is the one, I mean, it works perfectly in estuaries, and there's multiple colours you can get in this material. So this is a Tyrewell eye stub. So there's this, which is the bright green, there's an olive green, and then there's the brown, where fish are feeding off the black weed that you get off the rocks. I tend to use this more off the ocean rocks than I do in the estuary. Works really well on the ocean rocks on a 2-hook rig, and quite often you'll get 2 fish on one line, which is pretty neat. All right, so all I've done is I've wrapped the shank in with the lead. Again, you can do these weighted, you can do them unweighted. The choice is up to you, depends again on where you're fishing. And when I'm fishing 2, I'll have one that is unweighted and one that is weighted. The one at the bottom of the rig is the unweighted one. The one that's weighted I put midway up the rig, and that way the weighted one comes down and the other one sits there floating in the swell or current. So all I'm going to do is just put some thread over this lead wire, and that just helps hold it all in place, and also conceals it a little bit through the eye stub, because I don't dub the eye stub the same way. All right, so I'm going to come up to about there, and I'm going to take my first piece of dub. All right, so that's just that, and same thing as the last one. I'm just going to some loose wraps, get it round the shank, and then push it back on itself and tie that down. All right, then I come back up towards the tip of the eye of the hook, and I'm going to do the same again. So I'm going to put another piece in here, just wrap it, 1, so 1 and 2, so you can see that spinning around the hook. Then I'm going to push it back, and then bring the thread to the front and just create the head from the thread. Now this is flat wax, so you don't need too many turns to create the head, as you can see there. All right, so I'm just going to tie that off with a whip finish, and again only a few turns. Pull that tight, hit it with the clear goo. So this is clear goo hydro, so it actually soaks into the thread like head cement, but dries hard like epoxy. Really good epoxy resin. And again, I'm just going to comb that through, right, get all the loose bits off, and then I can trim any flyaways where you know, they're way too long, so some of those can come off. All right, so that's it, simple as that, but one of the most effective flies. So if that's a bit wet there, like that. One of the most effective flies for Luderick. One thing that's interesting, and you can see the shape of it now that I've wet it, quite often people, especially when they're fishing off the ocean rocks, end up catching, you know, things like salmon on these flies because they look like little baitfish profiles in the water, and they've got a little bit of shimmer to them. Where the light hits them, they tend to flash a little bit. So keep that in mind too when you're fishing off the rocks, because you just never know what you're going to hook up on. And I've heard of people fishing for blackfish off the rocks with 4 and 5 weights, but if you hook onto a decent sized drummer or a salmon, it could get interesting. Anyway, I'll leave that with you. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks, guys.